So, Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, is was published in 1939, and it's probably one of his most famous one, following Mice and Men, and both of which I finally got around to actually reading recently, semi-recently. And this one is probably his almost his magnum. I think East of Eden's kind of considered like his probably largest work, but this one's pretty big. It's a good, yeah, good probably a couple weeks took, or at least for me, to work my way through it. But it does take place during the Dust Bowl, Great Depression era. So right off the bat, it's kind of a realism, very realistic, as in Steinbeck is looking at things kind of without a fractured or lens for the sake of portraying things as they are for the sake of, like, as almost in a moral kind of way of kind of pointing out, like, hey, this is what's happening in the underbelly of the world, this is what's going on, so like, don't try to kid anybody about it. He's nothing about it's flowery or pretty in that sense. And in that sense, it's also a rough read too. It's not to say that it's lacking in imagination. I mean, the story and the characters, while they seem like archetypical kind of like the same thing of Mice and Men, they seem kind of like heightened versions of what you'd see walking around in reality, kind of working class 1930s, or I'm sorry, 1920s and 30s, Great Depression era migrant workers. They are, it takes a lot of, imagination and creativity to kind of, thread these characters together in a realistic, kind of believable fashion. And he did this quite, and that's why he's probably, deemed as one of the great kind of American novelists, I think, along with Mark Twain. And although they're kind of different categories, aside from the fact that they both share a nationality, I think maybe the comparison doesn't end there, but I think this is probably the reason why he's lauded as such. But so yeah, the Grapes of Wrath, like I said, it follows the Joad family, and they're moving their way out west from Oklahoma. No, out. I think they're going. They were going across west to go to California, I think, because that's where the brunt of the work is. And there's nothing in Oklahoma. It's just like totally, hence the novel's name. It's just total barren, desolate wasteland. As is with the rest of the Dust Bowl, obviously crossed over, sweep through all of the Midwest, all of the, pretty much western areas, southern areas, pretty much. I think historically, as my fact, kind of knowledge of facts and like what happened exactly chronologically so is definitely not perfect, and it definitely needs work. But I do remember the Dust Bowl kind of sweeping through the nation, mainly hitting kind of the west, the core, or the belly of the great navel of the nation. I think that's where it kind of like all these farmers had nothing, no crops, nothing was coming, so they had to go move west, where California, I think, had more promise. But it wasn't definitely California, because there's so many. So the Joad family goes there and they find out that everybody has the same idea, so everybody's out moving west, and they're going along the old traditional Route 66 to get there, and pretty much everybody's already kind of like grabbing up the work, and this is kind of the plight of the everyday kind of man, like, and a lot of the time it's hard for them to even find just very pittance for them, to get, because the stakes are so high for them, for everybody, that, like, it's pretty much first come, first serve. It's like, there's no, survivorship is just basically, it's not or it is a sum zero. Is it sum zero? I'm not sure. It's not a sum zero, I don't think, game for everybody, because nobody's coming into this, there's no equal distribution of anything. So, which is the sad truth, I think. But so Tom Joad is a complicated character in the sense that he's paroled after committing I'm not sure exactly the nature, or if they don't quite ever get around to telling him why he was paroled from a state prison in Oklahoma. but it was enough that it was kind of he would spend at least a few years in jail, I think. I don't think it was anything as bad as killing somebody, but it might have been an accident that kind of, maybe he injured somebody or he stole something or petty theft or something, well, maybe beyond petty theft. But anyway, so he's in jail and he gets paroled, and as soon as he's paroled, that's kind of where his story starts for us. That's where it starts when the Tom Joad, he's kind of the head of the household because he's the father, and he has his daughter Rose of Sharon, or that's what they call. I think Rose is sometimes I call her Rose of. I thought the whole entire time that when I heard it out loud, I thought at first that it was Rosa Sharon, but yeah. Anyway, so she's 18 and she has I think she is the whole time she's pregnant with a child, or she has a newborn baby, and she has her husband comes along too, and the whole gang is kind of like kind of a wide variety of characters. Like there's Tom Jones' son's like kind of more energetic and kind of ambitious, a little bit naive, but willing to work. And then there's the Reverend Jim Casey, who is former Reverend actually, because he's feels called that, like he doesn't quite feel called like he's ready, or that he's also, I think he saw too much hypocrisy in religion, and he's now not anti-religion. He's not, but he's kind of just doing his own thing. I think the way he describes his faith when he's talking to Tom is like more or less like it's kind of like a personal relationship that he has with God that he can't really expound upon, or really he's just like, I don't know how to explain it, but I don't want to go. I think he said something effective like not wanting to tell other people what to believe and how to read the Bible or how to interpret the Bible. So he's kind of just going away in a sense. Maybe him going on this trip to California with him is a sense of maybe escaping in that sense. A lot of some religious undertones to it too, not in a negative kind of way of saying, oh, all religion is bad, or I'm not quite sure if what Steinbeck's religious inclinations, if any, were, but it doesn't seem like it does seem like, sure, there's some biting, not satire, but some biting criticisms, kind of lambasting against certain echelons of religions, like more so the kind of maybe dogmatic forms of it. So they're moving out, and then there's a Grandpa Joad who's 60-something years old, I think. He's and he has this thing where it's like this weird kind of syrup that he thinks like it's gonna, I think I can't remember what it, I think it's like supposed to be popular out in California that he's supposed to be selling or something like that, and he's that he's putting a lot of like faith in that and his especially since his on the way on en route to California, all they Grandma Joe actually passes away, and yeah, there's a kind of a little bit of like a Faulkner-esque kind of thing as like as I lay dying going on too, with that the fact that death and like the family is like slowly navigating to out in both a figurative and a literal sense, like actually like trying to outdo themselves, I guess, trying to escape themselves or escape death, or trying to escape kind of familial patch that needs to be sewn back up somehow. And they're trying to find work, they're trying to find this, so they're going out there to California, and they basically find that like I said, all the jobs are taken, and but eventually they do find like some farm work. They find some work that's some of them find like grocery shop and like kind of packing groats or peach works, or throwing peaches in, and other jobs they get run off on because like like that's a kind of phrase you hear over on, it's like, hey, those goddamn Okies keep taking our job in Oklahoma. Those people from Oklahoma were called Okies kind of as a derogatory term, as if they were the reason why like they got like kind of a bad reputation for some reason, which seemed to be undeserved in a lot, but they because like like the Joad family, they're just looking for basic work, like the literal like anything at that point. So they're really at the end of their ropes, and they're capable of procuring like little things here and there, kind of per day. Kind of reminds me a bit of like Solzhenitsyn and the Gulag Archipelago, kind of little tiny little morsels of food, like just procuring that enough to just for the at the end of the day kind of work. It's like that's all that matters. It's like that's all when I say matters, it's not like in a hedonic, but like just in a like to sustain human life, to sustain this family that's dying, this family and the American family that's also dying universally too. And the Great Depression was like heard all the way, as if I'm not mistaken, worldwide. So but yeah, this family is like any win that they get, it's like worth it in a sense, but there's like a big it's endemic too, like basically near the end of the novel, the Reverend Casey, Jim Casey, ends up dying because he organizes like a workers' revolt, not a workers' revolt, but kind of a workers' revolution. That isn't. It's not like violent. Definitely, he's Casey's pretty. He's pretty anti-violence, but like that's there's a his kind of communion with other people. Like he's like identifies a lot with like the average working man. He has a lot of like empathy for them, and he wants them to just have enough food on, at least have on the table, like it's like basic necessity stuff, like just to live. And he's just like this workers kind of thing that is like kind of a localized movement that he's grouped together, and they just doesn't sit well with these other workers, like these other people that are kind of I think got slightly higher up, slightly make a slightly better income or whatever, or maybe they're just like making it off the backs of like these other, like the people like the Jodes or whatever. So they're just kind of, they end up it turns ugly at some point, and they end up killing him with I think with a pickaxe. It's actually pretty depressing. It's probably one of the more depressing parts of the novel. Yeah, but yeah, it's just a series of blows for the Jodes. Like they, like losing him, losing their, their grandma, and then finally near the end, spoiler alert, obviously, Rose of Sharon's like, with her son, and they're trying to make kind of their way out to like another job, trying to see if there's anything more promising, and exhausting all of California, and then if not, they move on to the next state. But you're kind of left in this very dismal state when, kind of like made me think of Macbeth, where where at the end of the play, like Macbeth is just completely at the end of his ropes, just like gives up on everything, just kind of totally resigned to what's happening around him, all the mayhem, like all the infidelity and the murders, and this is kind of that level of drama. I think it's very dramatic to see Rose of Sharon with her baby, and then she ends up, there's a starving kid with on the verge of dying, and she ends up giving some of her breast milk. Like she's already so young herself, she ends up offering some of her breast milk, taking away from her son in order to give to this dying kid. And like you don't know whether he sees the light of day after that, but it's just like so harrowing. This is probably the most depressing part, and I think it's like a fitting ending in a way, because it shows a state like they're in, like like you don't know, it's up in the air. Like today, it could have just as been that maybe they had a turn of luck, or they had a new kind of springing up, like some kind of opportunity sprung up around them, and maybe they were able to kind of off that. But like you don't really know. Like I don't think it portends beyond kind of just leaving it to interpretation. So yeah, that's what I did appreciate that kind of I don't know what you call it, like ambivalence, I guess. But yeah, definitely not an easy read. Not an easy read. In fact, I'm kind of glad that I didn't read it as kind of a required learning as when I was young, just because I didn't think I actually had it for required, or it might have been like a suggestion type of thing for me. But I'm kind of glad I did wait a little while just because of how dark some of the tones and the themes were. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to read more of Steinbeck. Um, so probably I'm gonna try to read East of Eden next, maybe early next year or something. But yeah, I'll let you know how that works out, and I'll keep you posted. Thanks for watching.